Horror with Wolf and a Mummy.
All right, and we are live.
In front of a dead studio audience.
So this is our first episode of
True Horror with Wolf and a Mummy.
True Horror with Wolf and a Mummy.
A mummy?
We can introduce ourselves.
Okay.
I am Wolf Turner, director, filmmaker, skateboarder, entrepreneur, all kinds of
goes on and on.
kind of weird stuff.
Keep going. Tell them all.
Award-winning short films. I've been in love with horror movies my entire life, including my sister. It started with our family, the Turner family, the great and amazing Turners.
Shout out.
Shout out to them. That whole family growing up was amazing.
And the fact that when we watched horror movies, we got to go get them ourselves. You know, going to the video store,
Exactly.
getting movies was just
Nothing like it.
yeah. Like, I'm sad that my children don't get to experience that.
No, I feel you on that. And with that introduction, we have Kimberly Michelle Turner Wilkes,
Yes.
the mummy herself.
And I am a mummy.
She is a mummy.
And most mummies know me by my horror kind of background.
Explain that a little bit.
So, I love horror, as Wolf has previously said. And when we had our son, the first thing that came to mind was when we do our gender reveal, the best way to do that would be with a short horror film. So we filmed it just for our family and shared it, and it kind of went a little viral.
A lot of companies picked it up.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many views it got. With that video alone, I think 300,000-400,000. And then companies like Dad, other companies, other outlets came and picked it up. So it was huge. It feels like every Halloween it kind of just goes back.
Yeah.
So this podcast is basically for horror fans, but not only that, but true crime fans.
Yes.
With this, we are going to talk about many discussions on how horror films coincide with true horror or true crime.
I know you went into a little bit about that you've made short films, but what kind of short films are you like known for?
Horror.
Horror.
Absolutely horror. Done other ones, but horror is definitely the niche of...
So you're our horror guru. And then when we go into true crime, I love true crime, and I have a little bit of a background. Before I became a mummy, I was a counselor, and I went to school for many, many years.
How many years was that? Could you be a doctor?
I mean,
A neurosurgeon?
I graduated in 2002 from high school and from college in 2013 with only a bachelor's degree.
So she's the party one in the family.
Yes,
Obviously.
Van Wilder would be impressed by my college days.
It was actually Van Wilder was written by
About me.
It was about
yeah,
her.
yeah. They just were like, we'll just make this into a guy, make it a little bit more funny. But yeah, it was based on me in my college days and my 3 different colleges that I went to.
So this is our first episode, and not only that, we are kind of just throwing this one together. We're gonna actually have my studio and then her studio at her location. So this one was more of a run and gun. We're together. Let's do it. Let's have fun. It's just gonna be this quick, just here there. So we'll probably have a few other little tweaks this here and there. But I'm excited that this is our first pilot, if you could say. What is this episode going to be about?
So, since we're just talking about our childhood, introducing everybody, we thought we would go into a classic cult horror film. So I think we should do Silver Bullet today. Silver Bullet.
One of my favorites. For the viewers and listeners out there that haven't seen Silver Bullet, this is a howling good classic horror film. The sleepy town of Tarker's Mill is overcome by a spree of mysterious murders. The townsfolk band together to track down the killer, but many of them wind up victims themselves. While the others have no luck finding the murderer, one night, a boy in a wheelchair named Marty, not McFly, encounters a werewolf, and the mystery starts to unravel. With the help of his sister and his Uncle Red, not from that 70s show, Marty takes on the feat of defeating the werewolf and saving the rest of the town. The film may be called Silver Bullet, but I would give it a gold star. I am the biggest werewolf fan.
I mean, your name is Wolf.
My name's Wolf.
I mean,
Can you get any more?
horrific than that.
There you go. There it is. There it is. Yeah, I love this. This is like my childhood. When I think of me as a child loving horror, like Silver Bullets and Monster Squad and Fright Night, all those, Salem's Lot. Just every time I just hear that name, I just kind of get that, like, the goosebumps of like excitement.
Goosebumps as well. No.
Goosebumps. I'm already afraid of the dark. She's already afraid of the dark.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's we'll just jump right in.
Okay.
So
okay.
Silver Bullet. I feel like Silver Bullet, for like people that aren't horror fans, haven't seen it. Like a lot of my friends are like, "What movie is that?" But it's written, and the screenplay and the book was written by
Stephen King.
Stephen King.
So both of them, because a lot of Stephen King stuff, I know.
The Shining.
The Shining. He had a lot of conflict because he didn't have anything to do with the movie part. So he had a lot to do with this, and so that's it's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Silver Bullet, werewolf movie, The Werewolf.
Which, as a kid, was horrifying.
I thought he was so scary, and like thinking back on it, I'm like, oh, he's just like when he comes out here and comes out there, but he doesn't. They actually don't have him really revealed fully until the end of the movie. And apparently there was a whole situation where he looked too much like a bear. Is that right?
Yeah, when I look into things and I hear people talk about it, because I belong to a lot of horror groups and stuff, they call him Smokey the Bear werewolf because he has those.
Didn't know that. Didn't.
Yeah, they didn't want him to have a lot of werewolf features. They wanted it to have it like muted some, and so if you'll go and look at the pictures, it does look like a bear.
I loved it. I thought the transformation he has, where back in the 80s they didn't have special effects CGI as much as they do now, and they just did that reverse hair when he got killed and turned back into a human. I love the way they just like slowly transition him, and they actually have that famous last jump scare you always get. I thought it was amazing. I think of him as this great, awesome werewolf, when a lot of people are like, that's one of the worst werewolves.
Yeah, and they had to tweak the werewolf a lot. So at first in the costume, they had like this interpretive dancer coming in, doing the costume. Then they decided, okay, that really did not do well. So they actually had the guy that played the character when he wasn't a werewolf. I don't remember his actual name, but he was in the costume.
Wow.
So to me, that made it a little bit more real, I guess.
That's insane. Was Gary Busey ever in another horror movie?
No, but was his son.
His son. Is his son Super Troopers? No,
I get him so confused.
Not Super Troopers. What is that movie? Starship Troopers.
Is he in that?
Is that him?
I don't know. There's him and another actor that was in that
Frighteners.
Yes, but then there was another movie, the college movie where he's dead.
Oh, that's not him. Dead Man on Campus.
Yes.
Love that movie.
I get him and that other.
They look alike.
I get him so
He's
confused.
also in Night at the Roxbury.
Okay.
He's like the guy that.
I get them
that
so
works out all the time.
confused.
I know, they kind of look alike.
They do.
But I think he's the Frighteners, Starship Troopers. Yeah.
And what else is he in? What is he known for right now?
What was he in?
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yes.
I've actually interviewed the brothers. The Duffer Brothers. Yeah, it was amazing.
So at the beginning, you kind of skimmed over. You made light of like what all you have done. But can you go into more detail about your background some more?
I was also a senior video producer for the Rap magazine.
Wow.
And I loved that job. I got to meet so many amazing directors, actors, producers. We would have a segment in shows. So like I would have like the AMC show, and we would like highlight all the movies coming out. But we also had Drinking with the Stars, where we would bring stars in, get them all drunk, and have fun and ask them ridiculous questions. It was so much fun. I loved it. Got to meet people like the Duffer Brothers.
That is awesome. But
yeah.
that wasn't your only encounter with them, was it?
No, so they hired me to drive my car because I have this classic 1965 Spitfire, and to drive it around. And so I go to the set. It's at the mall. It's
This is a
season
set of
2.
Stranger Things.
Set of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Go to the mall, season 2, drive it around. They like have the camera and everything. That's what I got paid for. And then they were like, okay, that's a wrap. And I was like, man, is that it? And so I drive my car out, and then I see all the actors like going down, like headed to the mall where like I just left. And I like jump out of my car and just get in that line. And I don't even know where this line's going. I don't know who knows? Maybe it's the cleanup people. But they were kind of dressed like they were in the 80s. So like I kind of knew like what was up. And basically, so I get in this line, and they're like, okay, you be here, you be there. And they're about to start. The Stranger Things kids like get on set and everything. And we're about to start shooting. And then they're like, cut. Who is that guy? And they were pointing like right at me.
Oh,
I'm so
God.
I'm so scared. I'm like, oh my God. They like, no. And then they're like, who did your wardrobe and makeup? And I'm like in my casual clothes. And I was like, oh, I forgot her name. You know, she's like blonde haired, shorter. And they're like, Stacy, that bitch, get back in there. And they call in. They call in this golf cart. They have stopped production on this. Got a golf cart. Got me in the golf cart. Drove to wardrobe and makeup. And I was so scared. I was like, are they going to find out? Like, they're going to know. They know that I wasn't supposed to be there. And I get there, and they put me in this, like, 80s outfit, cut my hair real 80s, and they're rushing. They have, like, 2 different wardrobe people and makeup, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is insane. This is so ridiculous. And I get on set, and then they start, and I'm just, like, just hanging out, like, at the mall, and they stop, and that was it. And I was like, oh, is that it? And then they're like, hey, does anyone know how to skateboard? And I was like, yes, I know how to skateboard. And so
now we're in scene 3 that you have been in.
And so it's like them like first getting to the mall, and it's like this exciting moment montage. And like I go and I'm like skating down, and then they're like cut, and they're like, okay. And everyone's like walking away for lunch. They get back, and then they're like, does anyone know how to ride a bicycle? And I was like, I do.
Scene 4.
Yeah. So I'm like riding this bicycle, and I like park it, and I'm like right in front of them, and we're, you know, like I don't have any lines or anything, but I'm just like, I'm at the mall, like this is awesome. And then last time they were like, okay, we need someone like hanging out with this guy. And so like, I'm like,
I know, have friends. I know how to be a friend.
I know how to talk. And so I get in line, and I'm like talking to this guy, and we're just hanging out right next to him, just like chatting up a storm. Not in the scene,
right.
But, you know, like chatting up in the storm. And I'm right there. And it was like amazing to like see everything of these kids just working in action. And like they had to eat the same ice cream like 500 times. It was so funny. And I was so excited. I was like, Jesus Christ, I just did like 6 scenes. And it comes out, and I'm like rush all the way. Like I fast forward all the way to the mall. And I'm just a freaking blur. They cut every single scene I was in. Even the car, they paid me that for me to drive my car.
Do you think they were like, this guy is in every scene?
I think so. I think they were like,
what?
okay, it's going to be weird if like every scene there's just this guy. He's just like.
But how many people can say they literally stopped production of Stranger Things?
I was scared at the same time. I was like I'm going to get arrested. Like, what are you doing here?
That is crazy. So you made your mark in LA, you made your mark in Atlanta, and now you're making your mark here in Nashville.
I love Nashville.
It's
been
beautiful.
So great. There's not a huge horror scene. I've been trying to find like special effects artists and like all this, but I'm still doing my own short films here. Just did this 80s horror skateboard short film that I'm really excited about, and did a couple other short films We actually worked on one with your children.
Yes. Be ready for that one.
You ready?
It's,
Look out. Take a look
It's
out.
going to be a good one.
And to bring it back, Silver Bullet.
Yes.
Silver Bullet.
Not a lot of people know this, but before he was hunting down vampires and Lost Boys, Corey Haim.
Ham.
This Corey was killing some some werewolves.
In a wheelchair.
How more badass can you get?
As a kid, and I watched Lost Boys too, and I just never put two and two together. But I just always assumed his legs didn't work.
I did too, and I didn't realize till I was an adult that was the same guy.
Not me neither.
Okay, I'm glad it wasn't just me.
It's the correlation,
The correlation.
The correlation.
I'm sorry.
I love it. No, I love it. I wish he was still alive and could do more horror films.
Yes. He was my childhood in horror. Werewolves and vampires?
Get Out of Town.
God.
He was what do you call it? He's a double threat.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit on crime on
True
this.
crime. I love it. So,
The killer
yes.
is the werewolf.
Yes.
But is there more of a meaning behind that?
So, in the book, in the movie, okay, well, let's go back. In the book, he is a priest.
Okay.
In the movie, he's a reverend. And you kind of see those coincide a little bit because in the movie, he's talking to Marty. They're on the bridge and talking about why he killed everyone. And he said to save them from damnation. Because so he killed the girl at the beginning because she was pregnant and she's taking the pills. She's going to commit suicide. And so he's killing her to save her from killing herself so she can go to heaven.
See, when I watched it, I just saw a werewolf killing people.
Yeah.
I know it's so there, that's why he's doing it, but to me, I'm just seeing, I didn't see that meaning.
Right. And as a kid, I didn't either, but
Yeah.
as an adult, I'm like, oh,
Absolutely.
that makes sense. Now, there's some parts that doesn't make sense to me, and I guess he killed some people because they saw him transform, or they figured out who he was. So it didn't seem like every time he killed, it was to save their soul. There's the guy at the railroad tracks, I guess, was an alcoholic. Now, every murder, I don't feel like was justified by what he said. It didn't make a lot of sense because he did kill some children. One that was flying a kite and staying out late. I don't think that justifies going to hell for staying out past curfew, but
It depends on who you ask.
it does.
I mean, why are you flying a kite at night? Something's up. If you ask me, something's fishy if you're flying a kite at night.
So,
do you think he got inspiration from that?
Do I think
From a real...
I don't know. I haven't read anything where he got inspiration from priest killing, but I know of at least 10 priests that have been convicted of murder. There's a serial killer one. There's some war crime priest killings. There's priests that's killed nuns. And if you go outside the priesthood, it gets bigger and bigger. So, and I think with the priests, sometimes there's some cover-ups. So yeah, it definitely could be inspirational.
When I watch movies, I don't look at a crime, unless I'm watching The Strangers and it's based on a true story.
Right.
I don't look at how they got inspiration.
Right.
Because obviously not everyone has a story like you of I saw a werewolf when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it has to come from some kind of psychological...
Well, to me, it feels like priests and people of the clergy and church, that's supposed to be a safe place. And so for them to be somebody that's supposed to be safe and then they're doing horrific things, that's terrifying.
And that's what makes people scared is you're out of your comfort zone. It's supposed to be comfortable, and then something crazy that you wouldn't be ready for.
Yeah.
And you brought up The Nun.
Yes.
And that's what probably makes the movie The Nun so freaking scary.
Yes.
She's scary
horrifying.
anyways.
So next episode, we should definitely do The Nun.
We can.
Talk about the One universe.
Wait, are you saying one universe?
The One. One?
The Wan?
The James Wan?
Just kidding. That's my favorite director, by the way.
Can you kill? If you were the vampire, you were the kids, could you kill?
I could kill a werewolf, but if I did, I feel like once he turns back into a human, I would have that picture all the time stuck in my head.
Yeah.
And what did I do?
And they're so vulnerable. Like when they return back to human, like they're naked, they're like, they're dying like that. And to look down and be like, oh my God, I just killed that vulnerable person.
And then it ends. And I always think about like in movies, like, okay, we just killed this guy. Clearly the police, like, here's a werewolf. Like, you're going to jail if you tell, well, he's a werewolf. He's human.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Like you need to make a movie about this. Like what happens after the horror movie ends, What do you do with the body?
Would be a great comedy.
Yes.
Of like, it just starts where a horror movie would end.
Yeah.
And then they're like, fuck. And then they're like, what do we do now? Like, because they clearly don't know anything about.
Right.
I would call you if I killed someone, which I'm not.
Which is a compliment, kind of.
Because she could get me to get away with it. But these children are not going to know, like, oh, my fingerprints are here. And
yeah. I mean, if you're in a vampire movie, obviously you're good. You just got to get a broom and sweep them with ashes. But a werewolf, if you killed him, there's the gun, there's the bullet. It
doesn't look good.
Yeah, it does not look good.
What are you gonna do? I don't know.
Yeah. At least in this movie, they had the whole community, everybody, and which is not.
That was a werewolf.
Yeah, which is not the case in most movies. Most movies, you're isolated.
I wonder if that's happened where like the whole community was like, nah, that was some fucked up shit.
Yeah, I don't know.
That was a ghost.
I'm gonna die. That's hilarious.
That was a ghost.
But definitely that needs.
They just got away with it because like the whole community was like, just bury it. We won't tell anybody.
Which brings kind of back to the whole James Wan thing. Because what's the newest thing that he's coming out with?
The newest is The Conjuring 3, and it's about the first ever case where someone got away with murder by saying they were possessed. Now that's up to you,
yeah.
But he got away with it, and that's what that one's about.
Oh, okay. That is our jam. That is right up our alley.
Jam. So in Silver Bullet, does it talk? Did he get scratched? Does it talk about how he turned?
So in the movie, it does not. It doesn't mention anything about how he got turned, but the book, it does. And the book is just so interesting. It has a lot of more detail, although the movie is better. But it talks about how I think the preacher was in a graveyard and he's picking flowers. And he picks some flowers and he puts them in a jar, I believe. And then they immediately die. And after that, he becomes a werewolf. And he thinks back and he thinks that's the only odd thing that had happened was picking the flowers from the graveyard. And that was the most unique story I've ever heard about becoming a werewolf.
Weird.
A flower turned me into a werewolf. Like, very unique. But I'm glad they didn't put that in the movie because it...
I guess they were trying to do that one of those things of like, it's like you said before, like anything that's not scary, when you turn it scary.
Yeah.
But
it was
I don't think it works in that
Yeah.
situation.
I mean, I can understand a scratch or a bite or...
Did he sniff it? Did he just pick it?
I think
like,
he just
did he
picked
eat
it?
it?
Yeah. I can understand like going on a date with a girl and y'all get frisky and she scratches you and you're like, oh, maybe that's what happened. But a flower? It's a unique take. I mean, it didn't stick very to me.
Yeah.
And obviously, he knew better when he did the movie. Like,
He's like, take out that flower
I'm gonna
part.
take that out.
That's so funny. When I think of Silver Bullet, I'm thinking about the relationship, the siblings. It was such a strong bond that I kind of related, like you and me growing up.
Definitely. Because he kind of tortures her. Mm-hmm. And you kind of tortured me. Mm-hmm. Not really, but when I went on dates, you were always there to make sure that
I had my spy gear.
Yes,
obviously my spy gear. And
so the relationship's interesting because if you read the book, which is to me not as good as the movie, which isn't usually the case, but in this case the book kind of drags, and the sister in the book doesn't really play a big part. But in the movie, she does. So when he tells her, like, I saw a werewolf, my initial thought was, like, she's not going to believe him. And Uncle Red is, his uncle.
And that's always the case. Like, they always have to, the family members, like, you never believes you.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what's so interesting about this whole movie is like people believe there's something. The whole community's coming out. They're gonna kill the werewolf. Like it's
love that.
Yeah, it's very interesting because usually it's a very isolated battle they're fighting.
And what people don't realize is this actually happened to us. And Kim in particular, she did see a werewolf.
That was one of the most horrifying things of my life, and I have trauma from it to this day.
We're not people like.
We're not those crazies. Okay.
There's a werewolf in my.
Yeah, like we're not gonna be on the next show of like a haunting or like, I saw a vampire.
Werewolf talk.
Yeah, cry wolf.
No, but this was a real situation that happened at our house.
Yes. And when I was about 3 years old, my mom and dad decided that I was big enough to sleep in my own room, set up my room for me, got it all decorated, put me in my room. And the first night it went really well. But then the next night I came in mom and dad's room, horrified, screaming, crying, telling them that the werewolf was at my window and he was going to get me. They were like, no, it's okay. Just sleep with us. It'll be fine. And this continues for about a week where they put me in my room. And then in the middle of the night, I come in their room screaming, crying, telling them that the werewolf's at my window and it's going to come get me. So finally, they decide, okay, we're just going to let her start sleeping in here with us. And we'll gradually move her back in there. So they, after about a week, they've put me in their room. I have a little mat in the floor that I'm sleeping on. And my mom wakes up in the middle of the night and looks out her window. And there's a man at my mom and dad's window. Now, we live in the South in the summertime, and the windows were up. And so the blinds were up. And she looks out the window. There's a man. And he has like, this is the 80s. So he has like big, permy, brown hair, big bushy beard. And I could see from like a 3-year-old's point where that would look kind of like a werewolf. And he was looking into their window. So obviously he'd been looking into my window for about a week. So she wakes my dad up. He gets up. He jumps out, chases after the man. Didn't catch him. But we never saw the man again. But it was horrifying. It was awful.
True crime. So with that being said, I wasn't old enough. If my sister's 6 years older than me, so I would have been
Not born.
And at the beginning of this, I said I remember, but
I remember the stories. Yeah.
And with this sibling situation,
Yeah.
did you ever feel any other resemblance with that?
Yes. So in the movie, I don't know if you've seen it, Marty saves himself from the vampire with fireworks. I was lucky enough to have a little brother
He
who
was a vampire and a werewolf.
I was lucky enough to have a little brother who always had fireworks. So your fireworks, I always felt safer having him around, because I knew if that werewolf ever came back to look in my window, that
I would shoot him.
he would shoot him. And another thing that made me feel safer was when you were born, you took my room. And I got a new room. So
Somebody's watching me. And like I said before, this is a pilot episode, so it's a little bit shorter than usual. I had so much fun talking about this. Learned some new things. It was so fantastic. Can't wait for the next one. You guys let us know what you think. Comment, subscribe, and we will see you next time.